Alright, so this is Richard White again. Today's fly is going to be a dry fly. I had a request from a friend, and it's going to be a Dark Cahill. Using this one because it's a fairly simple dry fly, an easy one to demonstrate basic techniques for dry flies. As always, start with my thread. The hook I'm using is a Daiichi 1190 dry fly hook. Now I'm going to go wrapping turn, touching turns, wrapping halfway back, and then come half that distance back again forward, and that'll allow me to set the wing at the 1/4 point from the back from the eye. Now, to set the wing here, what I'm going to do is take a dyed, it's actually a dyed mallard feather, but dyed to resemble wood duck. And what I'm going to do is start by clipping out. I'm actually going to grab the very tip and pull the fibers back a bit, just so I can clip out, eliminate the very center. And then that will let me have that V of the feather. Then I'm going to remove any fluff from down below, basically any part that I don't want to be part of the wing, and pluck that off. And that's probably a little fuller than I want it to be, so I'll remove a little bit more. Then I'm going to take the feather, lay it with the curve going upward, and I'm going to try to fold that feather around the central shank, the central shaft of the feather. Folding it, that'll guarantee that I'm going to have the fibers going in the direction I like. Then I can measure. I want the wing to be pretty much the length of the shank of the hook. So I'm going to take that, once I've measured it against the shank, move my fingers over where I left my thread. I'm going to go a couple of times around to lock it in place, and go in front of it a few times to both lock it and get it to stand up. And I'm going to go back just a few more times. Then I'm going to remove the excess, but I'm going to do it by cutting at an angle, and that will allow me to build up a little bit of the taper of the body. And you know, it's typical on dry flies that you set the wing before you go to the tail of the fly. On most other flies you start at the tail and work forward. So now I'm going to bring my thread back to the end of the straight part of the shank, and notice I turn my hook toward me so I get the best look at where that is. Let it hang. Now it's time to put in the tails, and for that I have a brown hackle feather, nice long hackle, so I can adjust the length of the tails to be whatever I want. And I'm going to take some of these and pull them 90 degrees to the shaft of the feather, and that will allow me to align the tips. And I want a fairly hefty batch here, and I'll pull those free. Once I have those, I'm going to measure them against the fly, and again I want them to be roughly the length of the body. That's a little longer than I want, so I'm going to clip a little off the tail. Now I'm going to take just one turn over the top and hold that fairly, 2 turns over the top, hold that fairly tight, then pass under the fibers, and that will help splay them out and stand them up so they stick out directly. Now I'm going to go over them just a little bit to create some of the taper for the body, and then come back, and now it's time to dub the body. Now I have one there that's sticking out. It wants to stick up in the air, unlike an actual mayfly tail, so we can just snip that off. Now for dubbing the body here, what I have here is some muskrat fur. Now the underfur of the muskrat is this wonderful, deep, leaden gray, very soft, also very water resistant. So I'm going to take a small amount of this, and I don't need the longest parts of the fur for this fly, so I'm going to take it from an area on here that's a little shorter, and I'm going to pluck some out, and that way I can get just the underfur. So I'm going to get myself the underfur. There'll be a few guard hairs in there. I want to pluck out the guard hairs in this case and get just the underfur. Now I put just a little wax on my thread so this nice soft hair will stick fairly well. I'm going to take that fur and open it out a little bit, fluff it up. Then I can start to dub this on the thread, and this very soft muskrat underfur dubs very easily. So now I can tighten up that noodle, spin it and tighten it, spin it to tighten it. As I wrap, I just spin, spin, spin. Now I want to stop. It's a good amount. I'm stopping just with leaving a little bit of space behind the wing. Now I'm going to go out, go in front of the wing, just to make sure I'm standing that wing up, and then I'm going to divide that wing. And sometimes it's easier to do that with a needle. Come right down the middle from the top. Then I can go over one side, making sure I start behind, actually, in this case. I'm going to go over forward, bring the other side back, go over in front of that, repeat, and that should both stand my wings up and split them fairly nicely. Now I need to put on the hackle. For the hackle, I have here and where did I leave that? A brown neck. I'm going to get a feather that has barbs that are appropriate for the size of the fly, which in this case is a 12. So I'm going to take that single feather and I'm going to strip off any of the soft material from the base. Clip that, and I'm going to turn my fly slightly just so I can see the side of the fly where I'm going to tie in the hackle. I'm going in both. I've caught a little bit of the wing. Let me bring the wing back up. So I'm going to catch it both in front and behind the wing. Then I can come back over in front several times to really bind that down. So that hackle is not going anywhere except around my fly. So now hackle pliers. This one's long enough, I could probably use my fingers, but I'll use the hackle pliers. Make it easier for you to see how I'm doing this. Now, I'm going to make sure I stand the wing up. I'm starting behind the wing. 1, 2, 3 turns. I'm going to go a 4th turn because this is a fairly sparse hackle. Bring the wing back. Now, right tightly in front of the wing. Start doing turns in front of the wing. 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go a 4th. Then I can bring the thread across that. In that case, the hackle broke right as I pulled it off, but it locked in place, so that's fine. Normally that should not really happen, but it did not break in a bad way, so I can live with that. And now, whoops, no, I cannot, because it completely unwound on me. So, another lesson is sometimes you do everything and it doesn't work, in which case it is easy to just go back and do it again. So I will go back, get another hackle, excuse me, while I pick another hackle here. Pick another hackle feather. As before, I will strip off the lower sections that are much softer, because those aren't going to help stand up the fly very effectively. Clip that off. Lay the hackle alongside the fly, bind it down behind the wing, bind it in front of the wing, leave that in place, go get my pliers, and we'll wrap again. So we're going to go, let me stand this up, so once, twice, 3 times, 4 times behind. You might use fewer if you have a very full hackle. This one is not extremely full. 2, 3 times in front. Again, go around, catch that thread, use the thread to catch the hackle. 2, 3 turns going forward, so I lock it in place, holding my thread fairly tight. What I'm going to now do is pull the hackle forward so that when I clip the hackle, I clip the hackle and not my thread. Now here you want to be careful to try not to catch any of those barbs, so use my fingers to pull barbs back as I make a small head. That will be a fairly nice, neat little head. Now, because it's a fairly small fly, I'm going to apply my head cement directly to the thread before I whip finish it, and that will make it much easier to get the head cement exactly where I want it. 2, 3, 4, and off. Snug that up, and clip the thread, and we have finished our fly. So we have a fairly full fly. The wings are standing up fairly straight. They're split. And it's ready to go. So again, a Dark Cahill, dark because it has the gray body rather than a pale tan body. Same wing as on a light Cahill. A somewhat darker hackle, very effective fly, doesn't imitate any particular insect. You might use it the same way you would use an Adams. It looks like lots of things that are alive on the water. A very simple one to get started with. Setting the wing, setting the tail, dubbing, and then wrapping the hackle. Really easy fly, very effective fly. You can use it in almost any waters, have them in a variety of sizes. Again, I use them anywhere from 12s to 16s. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any comments, please feel free to add them down below. Thank you.